Hi guys, so I had a request for a video on coercive control, so I'm going to do my best to cover it. So the definition is coercive control is an act or a pattern of acts of assault, threats, humiliation, intimidation, or gaslighting. This is a form of abuse that's used to harm, punish, or frighten their victim. So even a larger definition or a little bit more explanation would be basically any sort of trick that they're using to intimidate you. It could be anger, it could be condescending looks, it could be silent scorn, maybe they're guilt tripping you to make you feel helpless. They could be gaslighting you to make you feel crazy. They're blaming and shaming you. It could be very subtle though, pushing past your boundaries. Their actions, they'll agree to something to your face and then behind your back they they won't do it, or they'll agree to your face and then they do something passive aggressive to punish you. They refuse to own their part of the problem. They create emotional storms to sort of wear you down, and sometimes they can do this by stonewalling or silent treatment, where you'll come to them with a legitimate concern and they just stonewall and they won't answer. They will act evasive or just look at you and blink. And sometimes the victim will get more and more frustrated because they're being their feelings and their legitimate concerns are being completely dismissed, and they're made to feel like it doesn't matter what their needs are or what they want to talk about. They're just, the narcissist or the sociopath just isn't interested, which is actually true. And then these are all control tactics, and what can happen a lot, this is basically all about power and the misuse of power. And it's the abuser will use these mind games and to manipulate the victim. And a lot of times you don't even know that this is happening. They're doing this to dominate you, and but quite often it could be that they're sort of doing it in a really sort of passive way, that you don't even really know what's going on. Stonewalling and silent treatment are a huge part of that. Like, you send them an email and they don't respond. You send them another email, they don't respond. You try to call them, they don't respond. And, you ask direct questions to their face and they just ignore you. So these are, these coercive control is a form of abuse. It's all part of typically something that a narcissist or a sociopath will use to control their victims. I'm going to go over this sort of 10 ways to spot coercive control. And one is unreasonable demands, often followed up by threats, pressure, or physical restraint sometimes. Not always. A lot of times narcissists they do not get physical. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Degradation, it could be malicious or bullying, but the bullying could be very subtle. It could include belittling you in front of people, or sort of almost like making fun of you, like, oh, silly, look at her silly outfit, or just sort of like, it could be very subtle and covert, but sort of belittling you as if like what you say is silly or doesn't matter. They could go as far as to restrict your daily activities. They can kind of make it so that you're very restricted. And again, not all narcissists do this. This is not every single one of these things is going to be in their toolbox, in their arsenal, and not every single narcissist or abuser or sociopath is going to use every one of these. Sometimes they can use threats or intimidation. They can use withholding. They can use sex to they can either push sex on you, it makes you feel uncomfortable, or they can withhold sex and punish you for doing this thing that you don't even know you did, and they can punish you by withholding. Financial control, this can be monitoring what you're spending. It can also be blocking your name off of joint assets. It can be it can be having hidden bank accounts, all financial control. So you don't feel safe in the relationship to have a conversation with your partner about money, and It's always like, they control it. You're not sure where you stand. You feel unstable. And that's even if you've been married to them for a really long time. There's no disclosure and authenticity, and it's not a safe space. It's not safe for you to talk about money or sex or issues that you have a problem with. They could also monitor your time. A lot of narcissists will actually stalk your phone. It's not uncommon for them to put tracking devices on your phone, on your vehicle. This isn't always the case, but it certainly has happened. They very often cyber stalk you, especially if you've left them. Cyber stalking is going to be stalking your social media accounts. Sometimes they'll even install software on your computer or your phone to track you or to track the communication that you're having. Sometimes they will restrict your mobility. They will control vehicles or the access in and out of the home, or try to make you stay home instead of going out. Again, this isn't that every single one of them uses this. Sometimes they can even use deprivation of food, taking your food away, controlling your allowance, controlling how much you eat. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, these are, again, not every single one of these is going to be used by a narcissist in terms of what they're doing, or a sociopath or an abuser, but these are all possible things that could be happening. And, with coercive control, they're using a lot of manipulation, gaslighting, humiliation, silent scorn, subtle put downs. They could be doing a smear campaign behind your back. It could be very subtle. They could be suggesting to your friends or family that, you're off your rocker, you're a little bit crazy, or you're sick, or you're ill, or something's wrong with you. And this can be, again, very, very subtle. It can be in the guise of them being really concerned about you, right? So this is absolutely a form of, psychological and emotional abuse. Hacking into the phones. They can have spy cams, and they can install spy cams. The tactics include manipulation, humiliation, isolation, financial abuse, stalking, gaslighting, sometimes physical or sexual abuse. But again, quite often you have to keep in mind that these behaviors can be very subtle, very under the radar. It can be where, they train you by, could be through stonewalling or silent treatment, or it can even be, sometimes they'll even manipulate you, like when you're trying to bring up like a legitimate issue, like, hey, could we talk about this, bathroom that's under construction for 9 years, or could we talk about, getting my name on the title, or can we talk about like doing some joint, some estate planning, and sometimes what the manipulator will do actually is give you like this really sad expression of like, it's so difficult for them to talk about this sort of thing. So if you have like a lot of empathy and compassion, you might actually just be like, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'm not going to bring that up again, because obviously it's a real problem for them. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to make them uncomfortable, right? So even sometimes the coercive control can be in this form of like them being acting like they're so vulnerable, like they can't really, it's so upsetting for them to talk about it with you, and give you sort of a sad face, and it can actually play on your empathy. They're manipulating your empathy. It's very manipulative. This is a serious thing. And again, none of this has to actually include physical or even outright verbal abuse. And usually this is mixed with intermittent reinforcement, where the abuser will be controlling one day, and sort of dismissive, disdainful, won't talk to you, give you the silent treatment, ignore you, and then like the next day they can love bomb you and act like nothing happened, and act like they're your best friend, and let's do something great together. So intermittent reinforcement is a control tactic of manipulators, where they use it, where it's like they love bomb you and then they withhold, love bomb and withhold. So you're always sort of left in this place of like, not feeling secure in the relationship, not feeling safe in the relationship, not feeling like they're like truly on your team in the relationship. And this, they do this on purpose to maintain power and keep you off kilter, so you're always sort of second guessing yourself and you don't know what's really happening. Again, you know, these are all some of the behaviors that might exist with coercive control. So I hope I covered that. I'm going to try to do a little bit more research so I have a better you know, understanding, and I can you know, articulate it in a more clear fashion. But for now, that's the video, and I'll do more on this subject soon. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening, and I will stay in touch and make more videos soon. Thanks. Bye.